On the evening of October 12, 2022, 35-year-old Nicholas Brutcher and his brother Nathan departed their parents' residence in Bristol, Connecticut, for a local establishment known as Bleachers. They arrived around 7 to 7:30 p.m. to participate in the bar's open mic night, with Nicholas planning to perform stand-up comedy. As the night progressed, Nicholas became noticeably intoxicated, leading the bartender to cut off his alcohol service. Meanwhile, Nathan was engaged in a game of pool. At one point, a fellow bar patron approached Nicholas at the bar to get change for the pool table and placed his arm around him in a friendly manner. Nicholas, however, took offense to the physical contact and sternly told the man not to touch him. This interaction escalated into a verbal altercation, during which Nicholas, after issuing another warning, elbowed the man in the face, causing him to stagger backward. The situation intensified when one of the bartenders threatened to call the police unless the dispute was resolved. Both Nicholas and the patron assured her that they would settle the matter outside, proceeding towards the vestibule by the entrance. It was here that Nicholas struck the man in the head, knocking him to the floor. The man's handgun then slipped from its holster, which was quickly secured by Nicholas's friend and handed to the bartender. The confrontation moved outside to the parking lot, drawing Nathan's attention. A scuffle ensued, with bystanders eventually stepping in to separate the men. By this time, the police had been alerted and were en route to the scene. Upon arrival, police were informed by witnesses that the Brutcher brothers were seen leaving in a white pickup truck. The patron involved chose not to press charges, citing the other party's intoxication. Nonetheless, police were quick to act on witness descriptions and initiated a pursuit of the white pickup truck. The officers were able to locate and pull over the Brutcher vehicle. During the stop, Nicholas made a flippant remark about his driving capabilities and joked about escaping the police, referencing a movie-like chase. The tension escalated as the police dealt with the brothers, particularly when Nicholas attempted to leave the vehicle to speak with his brother against the officer's orders. This led to a stern warning from the police, instructing him to remain in place to avoid arrest for obstructing the investigation. The situation devolved into an exchange of insults, with Nicholas taunting the officers about his financial status compared to theirs. The encounter underscored the volatile nature of the evening, which began with plans for lighthearted entertainment but concluded with a police intervention and unresolved tensions. Amid the chaotic scene, Nicholas, clearly inebriated, lashed out with a slew of insults and taunts directed at the officers. His comments veered off into personal attacks, disparaging remarks about their physical attributes, and derisive comments regarding their jobs. Meanwhile, Nathan tried to mitigate the situation, attempting to assure the officers that everything was under control, albeit unsuccessfully. Nicholas's behavior escalated as he mockingly suggested he might just walk home, his tone dripping with sarcasm and defiance. Amid his rant, he threw out nonsensical and offensive remarks, which only added fuel to the already heated encounter. His taunting continued unabated, even as the officers maintained a professional demeanor, focusing on resolving the situation safely. Officer Pollock, managing the scene, had to make decisions based on the law and safety. He informed Nathan that due to his expired driver's license and Nicholas's condition, neither was fit to drive, and therefore, the truck would be impounded. This decision prompted more outbursts from Nicholas, who seemed intent on provoking the officers with every sentence. The verbal jousting reached a peak when Nicholas challenged the police directly, taunting them to take physical action against him, which he insinuated would prove their incompetence. His comments were interspersed with declarations about not being afraid of the police, further showcasing his lack of cooperation and respect for law enforcement. As the situation unfolded, Nathan tried to calm his brother and manage the interactions with the police. However, Nicholas's continuous provocations did little but exacerbate tensions. Officer Pollock proceeded with the necessary paperwork for Nathan's ticket for driving without a valid license, while other officers coordinated the logistics for towing the truck and arranging transportation for the brothers. Throughout this ordeal, Nicholas maintained a combative stance, continually mocking the officers and making it clear he felt unjustly treated. His refusal to comply or engage constructively left the police with no choice but to wait for backup and tow services, ensuring the brothers and the public's safety amidst the unfolding drama. In a tense and chaotic scene, Nicholas's frustration and agitation escalated as he interacted with the police. Despite the officers trying to resolve the situation peacefully, Nicholas's behavior fluctuated wildly between dismissive comments about the incident and confrontational challenges directed at the officers. Nicholas expressed a mix of disdain and nonchalance towards the penalties he faced, trivializing the fine associated with his ticket as he scoffed at the amount. His brother Nathan tried to mediate the situation, attempting to focus on the logistical details like calling their mother for a ride home, while Nicholas continued to antagonize the officers and provoke confrontation. Amid his outbursts, Nicholas made repeated references to his personal life and his pet, using these details to underline his frustration with the situation. He oscillated between taunting the police about their height and perceived effectiveness, and pleading with them to allow him to make his phone call without interference. His actions reflected a deep-seated resentment and a desire to assert control over the situation, even as he claimed he just wanted to resolve things and go home. The situation grew increasingly absurd as Nicholas commented on the police presence, sarcastically noting the number of cop cars and predicting a dramatic resolution involving their family dog. He insisted he had committed no crimes and therefore should not be detained or charged, maintaining a defiant stance against the police's authority. As the night wore on, Nicholas's demeanor remained erratic and confrontational, with fleeting moments of clarity where he seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation. However, these moments were quickly overshadowed by his continued provocations and lack of cooperation. Ultimately, the encounter highlighted the complexities of dealing with public disturbances and the challenges law enforcement officers face when trying to de-escalate volatile situations. Nicholas's persistent defiance and inflammatory comments created an environment filled with tension and uncertainty, underscoring the unpredictable nature of such public interactions. Nicholas, clearly agitated, ended his confrontational evening by openly defying the officers, declaring his intention to walk home despite their warnings. His contentious dialogue with the police bordered on a theatrical display of defiance and dismissal. As the officers repeatedly urged him to calm down and comply with simple instructions, Nicholas responded with mocking and derisive comments, underscoring his disregard for the situation's seriousness. Continuing his tirade, Nicholas brazenly told the officers he didn't respect them and announced his departure, signaling his plan to walk home, a statement made with a dramatic flair as if to punctuate his frustration with the night's events. His departure was marked by sarcastic farewells and a bold declaration of independence, as he rejected any help or intervention from the police. As he walked away, the conversation took an even more defiant turn. Nicholas was informed about a ticket for creating a public disturbance, which he dismissed with scorn, suggesting the charge was trivial and unjustified. The night ended with him receiving his ticket, which he could either pay or contest in court, adding a legal wrinkle to his ongoing challenges. The interaction highlighted the complexities of dealing with highly charged individuals in public settings, where the balance between enforcement and empathy can often become blurred. Nicholas's persistent provocations and lack of cooperation with the police illuminated the difficulties law enforcement officers face in maintaining order while respecting individual rights. Ultimately, Nicholas's actions reflected a deep-seated frustration and a desire to assert his autonomy, even in the face of authority. His defiant walk home symbolized his rejection of police assistance, encapsulating a night filled with conflict and confrontation. Shot back in the direction of the gunfire, managing to call for backup using his radio. Despite his injury, Officer Orat maintained his composure and provided critical details about the shooter's location and description to the incoming units. The rapid response from additional law enforcement flooded the area. Helicopters buzzed overhead, providing aerial surveillance, while SWAT teams moved in on the ground, coordinating with canine units to track Nicholas Brutcher's movements. The area was cordoned off, and residents were urgently advised to stay indoors through an emergency alert system. As the search intensified, Nicholas tried to evade capture by moving through backyards and over fences, but his efforts were thwarted by the tight police perimeter. His aggressive and erratic behavior continued to pose a significant threat, complicating the efforts of the police to apprehend him safely. In a tense standoff, Nicholas was eventually located hiding in a small shed behind a nearby house. Police negotiators tried to engage him, urging him to surrender peacefully and ensuring him that de-escalation was their priority. However, Nicholas was unresponsive to the negotiators' efforts, remaining silent and refusing to communicate. As the standoff dragged on, the tactical decision was made to deploy tear gas into the shed in an attempt to flush Nicholas out without further bloodshed. This method proved effective as, overcome by the gas, Nicholas stumbled out of the shed, disoriented but unharmed. He was immediately apprehended by the waiting officers, handcuffed, and led away to a patrol car. Following his arrest, Nicholas was charged with multiple counts, including 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Sergeant Deonti and Officer Hammy, as well as attempted murder for the injuries sustained by Officer Orad. The community was left reeling from the violence that unfolded, grappling with the loss of their officers and the shocking turn of events stemming from what began as a domestic altercation. The incident prompted discussions within the community and the police force about the dangers officers face in their line of duty and the importance of mental health support for individuals like Nathan, who was clearly struggling to cope with the aftermath of the initial altercation. The tragedy underscored the unpredictable nature of law enforcement and the critical need for effective communication and mental health resources in preventing such crises. With a memorial service and a public vigil, the events were attended by family members, colleagues, fellow law enforcement officers, and residents, all coming together to pay their respects and remember the lives of Sergeant Deonti and Officer Hammy. The community laid flowers, lit candles, and shared memories of the office's dedication and service. The memorial service highlighted the profound impact that the officers had on their community. Colleagues spoke about their professionalism, bravery, and the compassion they showed in their daily duties. Family members shared personal stories that depicted the officers as loving family men, committed to their loved ones and their community. The police department also initiated several community outreach programs aimed at building stronger relationships between law enforcement and the community members they serve. These programs included open forums, youth engagement initiatives, and workshops that focused on crisis intervention and mental health awareness. In the months following the tragedy, the Bristol Police Department reviewed and strengthened their protocols for handling traffic stops and high-risk situations. Additional training was provided to all officers, emphasizing de-escalation techniques and mental health first aid, ensuring that officers were better equipped to handle similar situations in the future. The community's response to the tragedy was a powerful testament to the bonds between the police and the people they serve. It also sparked a broader conversation about the importance of mental health support not just for law enforcement officers but for all members of the community. As the community healed, a permanent memorial was erected outside the Bristol Police Department, serving as a lasting tribute to the lives and sacrifices of Sergeant Deonti and Officer Hammy. The memorial became a place of reflection for those who wished to remember the officers and reflect on the events that had so deeply affected their community.